Hi, everyone. Let me talk about something. Your growth will offend those who are comfortable in stagnation. There's a quiet ache that comes with change. Not the kind of change you can mark on a calendar or announce in a caption, but the inner shift, the kind that reorders your values, makes you question your old patterns, and turns your inner voice from a whisper into a roar. That's what becoming feels like. It's not just uncomfortable, it's disorienting. And the deeper truth, most people aren't afraid of change itself. They're afraid of who they might have to leave behind to become who they're meant to be. Becoming anything new, wiser, braver, more whole requires us to shed old skins. And that shedding doesn't just happen in private. It happens in relationships, in rooms where we used to feel at home, in moments when we realize we're no longer laughing at the same jokes, no longer shrinking to fit in the same spaces. Growth starts with a tremor, a tug at your soul. But becoming is when you finally say yes to it. And in doing so, you often risk being misunderstood. One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that growth and belonging don't always hold hands. We think we want to grow, but what we really crave is permission to grow without consequences. But true becoming rarely comes with applause. It often arrives with silence, side eyes, distance. The people who once celebrated you might start questioning your choices, calling you different, too much, too ambitious, or too sensitive. What they really mean is, you're not staying where I need you to stay so I can keep avoiding my own discomfort. Let's talk about emotional risk, because that's the real currency of becoming. When you grow, you risk losing the version of you people were comfortable with. And not everyone is willing to do that. Growth forces you to confront what's not working. It shines a light on dysfunction. It sets boundaries where there used to be silence. That's uncomfortable for you, yes, but especially for the people who benefit from the version of you that doesn't question, doesn't rise, doesn't evolve. But here's the most tender truth I can offer. Discomfort is not a sign that something's wrong. It's often a sign that something sacred is happening. When your voice shakes as you speak your truth, when your heart races because you're showing up in a room differently, when you feel lonely after setting boundaries, that is the texture of becoming. It's supposed to feel unfamiliar. You are meeting parts of yourself you've never known before. I used to think that if I could just explain my growth better, just the right words, just the right tone, people would understand. But becoming isn't something you convince others of. It's something you embody. Some people will never understand your healing because they benefit from your wounds. Some people will never celebrate your clarity because they feel threatened by their own confusion. And that's not your fault. That's not your burden to carry. The discomfort of becoming is that you can't unsee what you now see. You can't unknow what you now know, and you shouldn't try. The pull to shrink again will come. It will sound like old friends, old roles, old narratives whispering, you were easier to love when you were smaller. But becoming isn't about being easy to love. It's about being true to yourself, even if it means breaking old molds. So keep becoming, keep showing up, keep growing into the person you were always meant to be, especially when it's uncomfortable, especially when it feels lonely. You are not too much. You are not wrong for growing. You are just becoming. And that will always, always be enough. There's a truth we often forget in our journey of growth. Our evolution doesn't just change us. It also changes how others see themselves. As we move forward, as we shed old habits and embrace new truths, we become mirrors that reflect not just who we've become, but who others feel they are too. And for many, those reflections can be uncomfortable, even threatening. When we grow, we unintentionally shine a light on others' insecurities, the places they've chosen not to look, the parts of themselves they'd rather leave untouched. It's easy to think that when we start evolving, people will celebrate our growth. After all, isn't growth always a good thing? But the reality is much messier. Growth forces people to reckon with their own choices, their own stagnation, and their own fears. Our progress often reveals to others what they're avoiding in themselves, their own unhealed wounds, their own missed opportunities, or their own reluctance to change. Suddenly, our confidence, our newfound clarity, our courage to speak up becomes a mirror to their fears. And that reflection can make them uncomfortable. Insecure people don't usually confront their insecurities directly. Instead, they deflect. They make your growth about you, about your arrogance, your pride, your lack of understanding. They might say things like, "You've changed," or "You think you're better than us now," because it's easier to deflect onto you than to face what's bubbling up inside of them. Your change is no longer just about you. It's a reminder that they might not be changing. It's easier to criticize your growth than to face the reality that they've stayed in the same place while you've moved forward. This isn't about being better or worse. It's about difference. Growth creates distance, and that distance is often hard to navigate. In relationships, whether with family, friends, or coworkers, change can feel like betrayal, but it's not betrayal. It's simply evolution. You're not abandoning anyone. You're not turning your back on the people who once meant everything to you. But when you rise, it forces others to confront the fact that they're still stuck in the same patterns they've always known. And that hurts. It's easier to criticize someone's climb than to look at the mountain in front of you. When we grow, we bring new questions into old conversations. We stop tolerating what we used to tolerate. We demand more from ourselves and from others. And while this can be liberating, it's often a jarring experience for those who are still sitting in their comfort zones. Their unease with your evolution isn't a reflection of your flaws, but a mirror of their fears. They are afraid that in your growth, you will leave them behind. And maybe, just maybe, they fear that if you can change so radically, they too will have to face the places in their own lives that need change. But here's the thing, your growth isn't a judgment of others. It's a mirror. And sometimes mirrors reflect things people aren't ready to see. Sometimes people feel the sting of your evolution, not because of what you're doing, but because of what it forces them to confront about their own choices. It's uncomfortable to see someone move ahead when you're still stuck, still wondering what could have been. It makes us ask hard questions. Why am I not where I want to be? What's holding me back? And those questions feel like an accusation when we're not ready to face them. As uncomfortable as it is, this mirroring is also an invitation. It's an invitation for others to look inward and ask themselves the same questions, to explore their own fears, their own barriers, and their own opportunities for growth. It's a gift, though it often doesn't feel like one. If we can hold space for those around us, understanding that their discomfort with our growth is their own internal struggle, we create an opportunity for healing, not just for ourselves, but for them too. Our evolution doesn't just serve us, it's a potential invitation for others to evolve as well, even if they don't yet know it. And this is where we find the most profound truth of all. Growth isn't just about changing your life, it's about giving others permission to change theirs. You becoming more fully yourself might just be the spark that invites someone else to step into their own power, to face their fears, and to take the first step toward their own transformation. Even if they can't see it yet, even if it makes them uncomfortable, you are creating space for their potential to unfold. And that's something truly beautiful, even if it's never acknowledged directly. It's the quiet gift of transformation given without expectation. The moment you start evolving, something shifts, not just within you, but also around you. And one of the hardest realizations in this journey is that not everyone will come along. You might have thought these relationships would be permanent, that the people who've been by your side for years would be there through every twist and turn. But the truth is, growth often requires us to outgrow relationship. And that's one of the most painful and beautiful aspects of it. When you start to change, when you begin to shed old beliefs, patterns, and habits, you may find that the people you once connected with no longer resonate with you. The things that used to matter, those shared experiences, those inside jokes, the conversations that filled up hours of time, suddenly feel empty. This isn't because they've become bad people or you've become better. It's simply that your growth has taken you to a place where your energy, your focus, and your values no longer align with theirs. It can be excruciating to realize that someone you love, someone who was once a source of comfort and support, is no longer walking the same path as you. But here's the thing, outgrowing relationships isn't a betrayal. It's a natural part of evolution. You cannot remain stagnant just to keep the comfort of the people who are stuck in their own patterns. Sometimes holding on to a relationship because of nostalgia, guilt, or fear is just another form of stagnation. The more you grow, the more you realize that the relationships you hold on to should nourish you, not drain you. This doesn't mean that every relationship will fade just because you change. Some people will grow alongside you. They'll be there to witness your evolution and celebrate it. But there will always be a group of people who, despite their best intentions, are unable or unwilling to grow with you. Maybe they are afraid of the risks you're taking. Maybe they feel threatened by your newfound confidence. Or maybe they're simply comfortable in their own way of living. And that's okay. But when these people can't see you for who you are becoming, and instead try to pull you back into who you were, the relationship can become a barrier, not a support. Let's talk about this idea of outgrowing. It's often misunderstood. It doesn't mean that the person has become less than or unimportant. It's about your evolving needs, your evolving desires, and your evolving energy. Sometimes, in order to grow into the person you are meant to be, you have to make room for new people, new ideas, and new energies that reflect your current self. This doesn't diminish your past relationships, but it does require a shift in perspective. You are not abandoning anyone. You are simply honoring the truth of where you are and where you're headed. But still, even when you know this is true, the pain of letting go can feel like a betrayal. How do you honor yourself while also honoring the history you shared with someone who can no longer walk with you? It's hard because letting go feels like erasing a part of your past. But in truth, letting go is just acknowledging that relationships evolve just as much as people do. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both you and the other person is to allow the space for that evolution to happen. This doesn't mean cutting people out without thought. It means giving yourself the grace to allow certain connections to naturally fade as you grow. The fear of letting go can also come from a deep sense of guilt. It's easy to think if I leave them behind, I'll be hurting them, or what if they need me and I'm no longer there? But this perspective assumes that your growth is inherently selfish or damaging. In reality, by staying in relationships that no longer serve you, you prevent both yourself and the other person from growing. Sometimes when we outgrow a relationship, we create this space for both people to find new connections that are more aligned with where they are in their journey. And then there's the freedom that comes from recognizing this truth. Not every person is meant to stay in your life forever. The people who walk with you for a season, whether a long one or a short one, serve a purpose. They teach you lessons. They help you learn about love, loss, acceptance, and boundaries. But some relationships are meant to come to a natural end. And when that happens, it doesn't erase the significance they had in your life. It just means it's time to turn the page to a new chapter with the wisdom you've gained and the strength you've earned. Ultimately, growth is about honoring your own journey, and sometimes that means walking it alone. It means allowing space for new relationships that match your current energy and soul's purpose. You are not responsible for someone else's growth, and they are not responsible for yours. As you evolve, trust that the people who are meant to stay will find a way to grow alongside you, and the ones who are meant to leave, they will leave, but not without leaving behind invaluable lessons. Keep growing, keep evolving. Trust that those who need to be there will be there when the time is right. Choosing courage over comfort isn't just a nice idea. It's the hard, necessary work of living authentically. It means walking into the discomfort of vulnerability and staying true to who you are, regardless of how others may react. It's choosing truth, even when it feels safer to stay silent. And it's deciding to move forward, even when approval from others feels like the only thing that will make you feel secure. This is where real growth lives, in the tension between who you are and who the world wants you to be. Comfort in its simplest form is familiar. It's the easy choice, the one that doesn't ask too much of you. Comfort doesn't challenge your beliefs, your actions, or your voice. But when you choose comfort, you choose stagnation. You choose to stay in a box neatly wrapped because it's easier than stepping out into the unknown. But the truth is, comfort rarely leads to fulfillment. It's in the discomfort of challenging yourself that you find your deepest truths and your most authentic path. Vulnerability is at the heart of courage. When we decide to live courageously, we are often confronted with the fear of judgment and rejection. To be vulnerable is to show up in the rawness of who we are, without the armor of perfection or the need to be accepted. It's opening ourselves to the possibility of failure and criticism, but also to the possibility of connection and true growth. And yet so many of us spend our lives avoiding vulnerability because we fear what others might think. But here's the paradox: vulnerability is the only thing that will ever lead us to deeper, more meaningful relationships and experiences. Without it, we're just performing, not living. The real test comes when we have to decide whether we'll choose to stay small for the comfort of others, or whether we'll choose to step into the fullness of our truth. It's so easy to hold back, to shrink, to censor ourselves in order to fit into the expectations and approval of the people around us. But in doing so, we deny the world the real, unfiltered version of ourselves. We hold back our potential, and we rob others of the opportunity to experience the fullness of who we are. Approval is an illusion. It can never fully satisfy us. The moment you get it, it fades, and you're left wondering what's next. But living truthfully, choosing courage, fills you up from the inside out. It's not dependent on external validation. It's rooted in knowing and accepting yourself. When we choose courage over comfort, we often feel like we're walking alone. The world, especially in a culture that prizes conformity, might try to make us feel as if we're doing something wrong. People may criticize, question, or even try to hold us back out of their own fears and insecurities. But this is the very moment where you need to dig deep into your own belief in yourself. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite the fear. It's speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. It's showing up fully even when it feels like you're the only one in the room doing so. The world might not always applaud, but your soul will know that you're living authentically, and that's enough. One of the biggest challenges we face when choosing courage is the temptation to seek approval. We are social beings, and it's natural to want to be accepted. But the truth is, seeking approval from others will only ever lead to dissatisfaction. It's a game with no winning outcome because the standards are constantly shifting. When we choose to prioritize external approval, we sacrifice our inner peace. We silence our truth to please others. But choosing courage means giving up the idea that you need anyone else's validation to be worthy. It means trusting that your truth is enough and that ultimately the people who are meant to be in your life will be drawn to the real you, not the version you put on for approval. In choosing courage over comfort, we also choose to move towards the person we are becoming, towards the possibilities we can't yet fully see but feel deep inside. Movement is the antidote to stagnation. It's the process of taking the next step, even if you're unsure where the path leads. It's about saying yes to discomfort and trusting that every step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward the life you are meant to live. Every time you choose truth over approval, vulnerability over armor, movement over stillness, you expand your capacity for growth. Courage is a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. The first time you choose to speak your truth in a room full of silence, it's terrifying. The first time you choose to step out of the comfort zone and chase a dream that feels too big, you'll feel like you're walking into the unknown. But with each courageous step, you begin to feel more at home in your own skin. You begin to trust yourself more. And that trust in yourself is the foundation that carries you through the inevitable challenges and doubts that will arise along the way. Choosing courage over comfort isn't easy, but every single time you do it, you grow. The most freeing part of choosing courage over comfort is the realization that it is your life to live and no one else's approval is required. When you choose your own truth, your own path, you stop living for others and start living for yourself. It's an act of self-love, self-acceptance, and self-respect. The courage to choose vulnerability, truth, and movement is the key to living a life that feels fully your own. And as you walk that path, you will inspire others to do the same because courage is contagious. It's in the authenticity of your choices that you invite others to choose authenticity in their own lives. There will always be moments on your journey where the path ahead seems unclear, where the noise around you is deafening, and where the temptation to quit becomes overwhelming. You'll face moments where the world questions your decisions, where the people you care about will tell you to turn back, and where your own doubts feel like a heavy weight pulling you down. But the greatest power you can wield in those moments is the decision to keep rising anyway. Even when the world tells you to stop, even when your fears tell you it's too much, keep rising. The world is full of opinions, of well-meaning voices that want to steer you in a direction that feels safer or more acceptable. These voices may come from family, friends, colleagues, or society at large. And while some of these voices are rooted in love, they can still become barriers to your growth if you allow them to dictate your path. The hardest part about staying true to your journey is that the voices of others, who are often not living your life, can feel so much louder than your own internal compass. But true growth isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about listening to the quiet whisper of your own soul and trusting it enough to move forward, even when the world feels like it's telling you to stay still. The resistance you'll face will often feel personal. People will question your decisions, criticize your choices, and sometimes even mock your dreams. But here's a truth that's hard to accept. This pushback isn't always about you. It's a reflection of their own discomfort with change, their own fear of what's possible, and their own insecurities. People will try to hold you to a standard that feels familiar to them, but not necessarily right for you. The more you rise, the more you challenge the status quo, and that makes some people uncomfortable. But remember, the only thing their discomfort really reveals is how much they fear their own potential. And that fear is not yours to carry. It's in the moments of pushback, the moments when the world seems to be telling you to stop, that your real power lies. It's not about ignoring the discomfort or pretending the criticism doesn't hurt. It's about acknowledging that discomfort and choosing to rise anyway. You might feel alone, you might feel misunderstood, and you might even feel like you're walking into the unknown with no clear map. But that is the very moment where your growth is most profound. The courage to keep going despite the obstacles is what separates those who stay stuck from those who break through. The power lies not in the absence of fear, but in moving forward with it. Every step you take on your path, especially when it feels like the world is pushing against you, is an act of rebellion against the limits others try to impose on you. And that rebellion is a gift because it's a statement that you are living for yourself, not for anyone else's approval. You are choosing to trust your own instincts, to honor your own path, and to create the future you want to live. This is not an easy choice, and it requires a fierce kind of determination. But with each step you take, no matter how small, you send a message to the universe. I am willing to rise. I am willing to keep moving forward no matter what. There's power in the resilience that comes from pushing through when it feels like everything is against you. The obstacles you face don't define you, they refine you. They build your strength, deepen your resolve, and sharpen your sense of purpose. It's in those moments of resistance that your character is forged. You might stumble, you might fall, but if you keep rising anyway, you develop the resilience to face whatever comes next. And with that resilience, you become unstoppable. Your path may not always be smooth, but your ability to rise will always be your greatest asset. The world will often try to tell you that there's an easier, more comfortable path. It will tempt you to give up, to settle, to conform. But here's the paradox. The easy path rarely leads to fulfillment. It might offer temporary comfort, but it doesn't allow you to grow into the person you are meant to become. The more you rise, the more you step into your true power, and the more you embrace your authentic self. And as you do, you begin to see the people and opportunities that truly align with your vision start to appear. They were there all along, but you had to rise first to see them. There is profound power in staying true to your path. It's not the loud applause or the external validation that makes your journey worth it. It's the quiet moments of knowing that you're honoring your truth, that you're doing what feels right for you, regardless of the external noise. Keep rising anyway, even when the world pushes back, even when it feels like no one understands. Because in those moments, you are creating the life you deserve, the life that's waiting for you on the other side of resistance.